Gold, Bitcoin, or something else? That is the question that a lot of you men have right now when it comes to investing, and especially if you're responsible for stewarding the family's wealth. This is a big and important question, especially given the times of inflation and financial distress that we're in, basically globally. But a lot of people are feeling the squeeze. And in this short video, I want to speak to how I'm thinking about it and how we as a family are thinking about it, and especially in light of the recent collapse of the yen carry trade. So let's dive in. So just a couple of weeks ago, the yen carry trade collapsed, and prior to that, I didn't know what that was, but for those of you who also don't know, this has been a long-running scheme that Japanese people initially, but also institutional players eventually, have taken advantage of to use yen, which can be borrowed in Japan for basically zero interest rate, 0%, that can be leveraged in other financial markets for much greater gain. And so you have this process of arbitrage from a 0% interest rate country to maybe a 4% or a 5% interest rate country like the US is right now, 4.5% right now, I think. And what happened was that the Japanese central bank, they increased their interest rate by only 25 standard points, 0.25%. And that crashed the whole thing. And I took down some numbers here in the S&P 500 from July 31st to August 5th. It went down 6%. Nasdaq went down 8% in a similar time frame. Bitcoin went down 25%. And what about gold? It went down by 2%. A lot of people are talking about Bitcoin as basically leveraged Nasdaq. So the technology stocks, when they go up, then Bitcoin goes up in a leveraged way. So exactly what level of multiplication you can apply will probably change, throughout the seasons of the financial markets. But in this particular case, we saw Bitcoin be leveraged by 3 times. So 8 times 3 is 24, and it was 25%. And I think it's important to consider the implications of this, and also to consider the implications of gold only falling by 2%, and since then having found new all-time highs. Bitcoin fell from around $66,000 on July the 31st to less than $50,000 actually on August the 5th. And I didn't expect it to fall that far. Now I'm invested, and we are invested in both gold and Bitcoin. But we have more in the precious metal market. So some of it physical, but most of it actually in the precious metals miner market. And I think that's important for you people to look into, because only about a year ago, I didn't understand the implications of changing valuation in the precious metals on the valuation of miners. But it's fairly obvious now that I do know, is that once the price of gold and silver goes up and up and up and up, it becomes more financially feasible for mining projects around the world that have been waiting for financially fortuitous times, such as these ones, to actually start looking for gold and silver. It's not always financially responsible for these mining companies to start, obviously, because the gold is harder and harder to excavate further and further down into the ground. And so you need for the gold to be really, really highly valued for those projects to be started up. And when they are, and they find gold, and a lot of them are highly likely to find gold or silver, we are looking at stock appreciation at the level that we are used to seeing in the crypto markets. When you think of Bitcoin being essentially leveraged NASDAQ, there is a much higher likelihood of volatility with crypto. And I think we may find ourselves moving into a new all-time high, maybe even twice of our current all-time high, which I think is around $73,000 for the Bitcoin. Maybe that will be doubled in this bull run, but it will retrace. And one of our closest financial advisors believes that it will actually retrace back down to around $15,000. Whether that will happen or not is hard to say, but I don't think it will happen to precious metals miners. And so that is why we have, as a family, more money in metal, actual physical metal, and precious metals miners than we have in the crypto markets. And I know a lot of people out there used to be gold bugs and no longer are after Bitcoin came onto the scene. But I can't shake that there is something that is going to play out in the crypto markets that are not going to be good for us. It could be this new narrative around the Bitcoin dollar, because the petrodollar has collapsed. And there are more and more signals that there are forces inside of the US that are seeking to build the Bitcoin dollar. And when that happens, we will find that the Bitcoin becomes completely under control. We will find a domesticated Bitcoin, if you will. And we could also find ourselves not really being in a market where Bitcoin is going to be used for trade, actually, because we will all have to go via the dollar. So that I think even Trump now is talking about how you should never sell your Bitcoin. It should always just be sitting there, and you shouldn't be using it as money. It should just be store of value. And that severely undermines the potential of Bitcoin. And if that is going to play out, it's going to be a problem for the Bitcoin valuation, I think. Also, there's obviously the whole narrative around digital ID, and if we will need them eventually to even access the internet. I don't know if that will happen. I think there is a real risk it will, and that's going to be highly problematic for people who are sovereign-minded and who have all of their money in Bitcoin. Because what are you going to do? Are you going to completely give yourself away to the beast system, the matrix, in order to get your Bitcoin? Then Bitcoin isn't what it was meant to be anymore. So I'm looking at all of these things, and as always, I believe diversification is a really, really important thing to take into consideration, because so many narratives could play out, so many things could happen that are hard to foresee. But given what we saw with the yen carry trade, that Bitcoin fell dramatically. I think I remember waking up to a 10% fall in Bitcoin overnight. That's quite dramatic. I think a lot of us got kind of white in the face and heart palpitations from seeing that. But of course, these are the kinds of dips that make skilled investors money. And yeah, the gold dropped by 2%. I think that says a lot. I expect it to keep going up and to be a lot more stable than Bitcoin. There may be further points of retracing. But yeah, $3,000 gold is probably not far away. So you do whatever feels right for you and your family. But I hope you take this into consideration, that maybe it isn't the best idea to put all of your money in Bitcoin, given the various narratives that are playing out. And when, and I think it's a when the stock market crashes, then Bitcoin may be wiped out completely. And at that point, the people who sold out can buy back in and increase their portfolio by 5 to 10x, potentially. So just something to think about. And I make these videos especially for you family men, fathers, husbands who feel like you really want to steward your family well. And I believe it's important for us in this time as men that we awaken our intrinsic heroic impulse to become everyday heroes that act with courage and with clarity, that, you know, we make things happen in our families and with our financial game as well, and spiritually too. I think staying connected to God throughout what's going on now is I think it's the most important thing. I think it's by far the most important thing. So if you want more of this kind of information and videos, just informal videos of me in my garden talking about finance and macropolitics and spiritual warfare and being sovereign and being brave and rising as a man, like this video and subscribe to the channel, and also click that bell so that you get notified whenever it is that I put out new videos. Hope this has been helpful. Hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you in the next video.